After exploring chapters 11 to 18 of Love and DeepSpace, I felt that something would be missing if I didn't also delve into the previous chapters. And that's why we're here. This is Princess Farron, and it's time to journey into the deep space tunnel. Let's take off. Chapter 1, Longley Flame. In this chapter dedicated to Zane, Sienna, who was William's girlfriend, and William was a friend of Zane's, um, Sienna meets Zane to give him a martyr's badge. She said she would rather not see the badge anymore as it reminds her that William has died and will never return. Understanding the situation, Zane accepts it and puts it in a drawer. So, what happened to William is described in the anecdote Never Ending Winter. So, after destroying a protofill in Mount Eternal, crystals suddenly appeared and spread on William's body, and he quickly starts transforming into a wanderer before Zane. Zane tries to freeze the crystals with his evil again and again, but he just can't stop the spreading for more than a few seconds. Finally, all of William's body becomes encased in crystal, and he begs Zane to kill him so he won't become a monster. Zane is left with no other way but to acquiesce. After the deed is done, Zane looks up and he sees the Grim Reaper of his nightmares, Dawnbreaker Zane. In the following chapter, we learned, as they always do every year during first year admissions, that Dr. Noah and Zane go to Skyhaven University for the student oath ceremony. This is where, for the first time, it's hinted that Dr. Noah doesn't quite trust Carter. Noah reminisces about Zane, William, but when he thinks of Carter, when they were students, he says, that boy, Carter, never mind. The pause that Dr. Noah makes is pregnant with meaning, and we discover the reasons as to why during Zane's story branch, Thorns Under the Moon, and his anecdotes too. When one of the students sees the two of them, Dr. Noah and Zane, he approaches and says that Zane was the legendary 35th academic god that he and his colleagues pray to before exams. Maybe this is just a matter of speech. Or perhaps it could hint at Zane's true nature, and that's why I mentioned it here. As even if we have so far no proof that he is a god, we know for a fact that he used to serve Astra as a tool to deliver his will, as explored in the Tower of Secret Smith. Dr. Noah then reminisces when Zane took his own oath. Being the bright, dedicated student we all know Zane to be, he was the youngest one there. After the oath ceremony, the two of them went to the cafeteria and mentioned the rumors about the existence of a ghost in the office. We go back in time to when the cafeteria of the university had just been renovated. In that time, Zane had submitted a report about a theoretical model that looked like it could provide a worthy way of using protocore energy in interventional cardiology procedures. During that time, there was also a suspicion about something weird happening in the research lab. There were swishing noises and a voice when the lab was supposed to be empty. But in fact, it was Zane that was in the office, sitting behind a human model reading research reports. One of the most important details, however, was Zane's admission to Dr. Noah that he got into medical school not only because of his parents, who are both doctors, but also because of someone else, as he doesn't want to be incapable of doing anything again when he becomes a threat to her. Later on, Zane destroys his part of the experimental data, and when Dr. Noah confronts him about it, Zane reveals that something went wrong, and as a result of the procedure, the heart got mostly covered in black crystals. So much so that it looked like the heart was growing out of those crystals. Maybe it was due to this temporary failure that Zane didn't take the step to visit her, the MC. Dr. Noah couldn't help but muse that Zane somehow felt surreal, like he would never be part of the crowd. His conclusion? Zane is destined to walk alone. Dr. Noah's heart, however, ached for the young man, and he hoped that one day a fork in the road would appear before Zane, offering him a respite, a path that would make him diverge and escape the Dawnbreaker Zane fate, I would like to add. Chapter 2, Snowy Stairs. This chapter is mainly narrated by Zane's colleague, Dr. Carter, and it sets the stage for their divergence, whose most obvious moment so far happened in Thorns Under the Moon, Zane's story branch. Carter works for Xander Sciences, which is a subsidiary of the Evergroup. Carter states that what drives science is not experiments, but ideas, and that he and Zane share that belief. But the truth is that Carter and Zane have actually opposing ideas in regards to the ethics of applying protocore technology to revive bad cells. That doesn't seem to faze Carter, whose current main goal is to convince Zane to join him in Xander Sciences. As Carter makes his way to find Zane, he observes the following scene: a kid urging Zane to bring his dog back to life. Making use of the situation, Carter makes his presence known and states that the dog can live again with the help of a protocore. Zane's gaze immediately turns cold and he says, "Death is a part of life. We can't change that." That answer is just what Carter needs to counterattack. If someone wants a life to continue, how would you know if you can't bring it back? Shouldn't you try it first? Carter gives Zane his business card and declares Zane's talents are wasted at Exo Hospital. Xander Sciences, however, doesn't want to see a genius like him be forgotten. Zane's answer? He doesn't take the card. But Carter won't just give up. Instead, he shows Zane a case with a very rare heart condition, whose surgery is scheduled for the next day. On the following day, 5 hours after the surgery is done, Zane finally shows up. He stares at a scene that could have been taken straight out of a sci-fi movie. Xander Science's 15 life pods look like capsules with innumerable tubes connecting them to the surrounding equipment. Red tubes sucked away death, blue ones injected new life. Patient 607 is soaking in the liquid, shriveled like a skeleton. When Carter arrives and informs Zane the regeneration of the heart failed, Zane promptly asks him how he performed the surgery. Zane just couldn't resist staying away when he found out some of the specifics of patient 607's case. And that's when Carter uses a bargaining chip. "You will know everything if you join us." Feeling he has the upper hand, he also reveals that he brought to Xander Sciences the project both of them were working on at med school, the one that Zane had stopped. It's now called X-Heart. Zane immediately brings up their colleague, William's death at Mount Eternal. Contrary to Carter's expectation, Zane is not there to join Xander Sciences. Carter goes on. "Our job is to save people. If we can't control life and death, why shouldn't we?" He then proceeds to ask Zane if he believes in God, to which Zane replies he's crazy. This seems like a simple question to ask when talking about matters of life and death, but taking into account what he knows about Zane from his myth as the Foreseer, he acts as a divining tool for the Almighty, Astra, and as Master of Fate, he's tasked with making sure Fate stays safe from the MC, a variable, who will bring about disaster to the world by means of removing her from existence. It's almost like Carter asks a divine entity if he believes in himself or if he believes in their maker. And he's still in Xander Sciences, Zane sees a mother grieving for her son who has lost his heart. The body is being transported in a waste disposal cart, a hand poking beneath the white cloth. Zane asks for a moment with him in a clean room and a set of surgical tools. After a while, that young man appears before his parents in a clean and intact state, and their parents are able to finally say their final farewell. The reasons for Zane to disagree with Carter's way of defining death just keep piling up. Just a few days later, Zane joins Axel's evil cardiac medical research lab as its principal investigator, most likely out of his wish not to experience what was happening in Xander's sciences again. Zane believed there should be another way. On his part, Carton doesn't give up on trying to make Zane join him, or should I say, he doesn't quit torturing Zane. He sends him a picture of a failed attempt at resuscitating a patient, the body lying on the floor, a cluster of black crystals blooming on the left side of the chest. The accompanying messages? Zane, if the person lying on the operating table was your lover, would you let her die? It's clear Carter will say and maybe even do anything to try and get his way. And that is the reason why, in Zane's story branch, Zane tried to lead MC away from Carter as soon as possible. Regardless, Carter soon comes to the conclusion that he needs more than a like minded colleague. He needs a pair of hands that can carry out God's mission and allow for God's descent. He needs Zane's hands. Once again, I'd like to note that we have another association between Zane and God, or Zane and the God's emissary. Carter remembers that Zane became a doctor because of a girl, and since he is taking over Dr. Noah's work, that must mean that if he can get access to the cases being transferred, he can find that girl. The girl will be his trump card, and once he has her, Carter knows he'll have Zane's hand at his disposal. Maybe she's even more interesting than the patients of cabin 607, as both Dr. Noah and Zane seem unable to help her. At the same time, in a dim lit study, Zane sees MC's name in the records Dr. Noah transferred to him. He recalls Carter's words, back from when they were at med school. Wouldn't you use everything in your power to prevent your loved ones from dying? The answer is the same as given several times in his heart. Of course he would. He would do everything he could to prevent her death and save her. Zane adds that at least he still has another option, his last one. Now, this could refer to his new research in Axel's evil cardiac research lab, or, once again, sacrificing himself for her, in this case, literally giving her his heart. Chapter 3, Bouquets and Dirges. In this chapter, we see Raphael in a private garden owned by his friend Charles, a jewelry designer. It is the venue where Raphael's aunt, Talia, and her lover will hold their wedding. While Raphael is picking flowers for Talia, Charles says, choosing flowers is a psychological process akin to trying to understand another person. Raphael retorts that he chose them based on the impression they give. We know our fishy doesn't usually like to show off his thoughtful side. Remembering a picture of a girl he saw in Raphael's photo album, Charles says, people have also said that giving flowers to a lover is a surefire way to their heart. If you ever want to do that, you're welcome to pick any flowers from my garden. Later on, Charles catches a conversation between nephew and aunt, where Raphael states he won't attend Talia's wedding. His reasoning is because he already blessed his aunt when she made the pact. Here we realize that due to their long lifespans as Lemurians, Talia had already been married before, and Raphael had already blessed her in that occasion. Talia retorts that not everyone is as lucky as Raphael. I would like to emphasize this line because it implies that Raphael's aunt knows that Raphael keeps finding several reincarnations of the MC throughout the times. And luckily enough, the MC always falls back in love with him. Regardless of what he said to Talia, Raphael designed the bouquet and also helped Charles create the design for his aunt's necklace so they would match her wedding dress. We then move to the ceremony. Raphael sees a group of Lemurians. Amongst them is a face he hadn't seen since the disaster, since the fall of Lemuria. He plays a happy melody on an ancient Lemurian instrument, making the most of the present joyous event. After a bit of casual conversation with Talia, Raphael informs her that Raymond is dead. So we are all on the same page. Raymond was an art collector who supposedly had ties to Xander Sciences and conducted experiments on Lemurians. And when he was found dead, he had a skeleton of a mermaid on display. His death was actually one of the first cases we see the MC working on. After hearing the news, Talia sighs of relief knowing they can breathe easy for now. Changing the subject, Talia explains she's getting married not because she has forgotten the past, but because she wants to live in the present. And all those Lemurians who are there are looking for an anchor, a reason to live. And Talia has found hers. Feeling for what happened to Lemuria in the past, knowing that on one occasion it was partly his own fault when he refused to sacrifice MC's heart, Raphael just answers that Lemuria is more important. However, we are shown that Talia knows Raphael very well. She asks him, "But what about you? When your heart is devouring you, is there anything that can pull you back? Can you really let her go?" Raphael, have you ever thought about your one ending? No, answers Raphael. Raphael returns to Charles' garden to pick a flower bouquet for a relative's daughter, and we know those flowers are meant for the dead Lemurian that Raymond had at his house. He ends up choosing gardenias, which represent freedom, happiness, and rebirth. When Raphael goes to Raymond's funeral, that is being held in Raymond's living room, he places the gardenias on the coffin with the most beautiful side facing the fish tank. In the meantime, Talia stands at the front of the hall and starts singing a dirge, both of their gestures directed at the beloved Lemurian life taken away by Raymond. Just as Raphael is about to leave, Raymond's mother accuses him of having murdered her son. Sometime later, Raphael visits Talia in Verona and she tosses him a small bouquet of flowers, though her intention was to toss him the bouquet on the wedding day. I just think this moment was so sweet. Talia wanted to bless our fishy and the MC. His aunt knew that even when Raphael told her he didn't think about his wedding, he was not being honest. He had conflicting thoughts about it because of the chaos that ensued in the ceremony, his ceremony. But let's not forget that Raphael is constantly hitting at marrying MC, calling her beloved bride and mermaid bride. In the last subchapter, Gloriosa, Raphael returns to Charles' garden and picks a bouquet of fiery flame lilies. Charles assumes Raphael is giving himself away. The truth is Raphael hasn't decided if he should give the bouquet. Can the flame lily bouquet become his anchor? He is not sure. Chapter 4, From the Stars. The first chapter related to Xavier actually focuses more on his friend and fellow backtracker, Jeremiah. We get to know that he was in love with Bella, the daughter of the owner of Sweetie's Cake Shop. It is filled with cute little moments, this chapter, like when Jeremiah offers one of the cheesecakes he buys, or when he invites her for dinner at his house. Despite not being used to Earth food, Jeremiah asks Xavier's help to make some Earth dishes for the dinner and fills the house with fresh flowers because Bella loves marigolds. And since Jeremiah insists Bella was just his friend, He asked Xavier to stay for dinner as well and to taste test his baked cheese rice. We learned here in this chapter that Jeremiah and the other backtrackers had come to Earth over 200 years ago. Just a quick note here. The backtrackers are a group of light seeker knights that Xavier brought from Philos to Earth in order to find a way to save Philos and the MC, who at the moment is the planet's queen. And even after 200 years, Jeremiah is still working on fixing the spaceship's launcher. During these 2 centuries, the backtrackers team eventually dissolved in the mundane time of this era. After leaving Jeremiah's house, Xavier goes to a secluded dense forest on the city outskirts where the backtracker's spaceship, Traceback 2, crashed. Xavier places Jeremiah's accelerator into the launcher and lights it with his evo. Unfortunately, without protocore energy, it simply doesn't work. It is also in this section that it is clearly explained that Xavier can teleport to any place he has been before using his evo. Xavier also muses about the fact that somewhere in the vast cosmos there might exist a point where light from countless timelines converges. From there, one could see every star that ever existed, from the explosion of the universe to its eventual collapse, and witness every possible ending the world could take under an infinite number of choices. This is, of course, a known theory, but in terms of Love and DeepSpace, it made me think of Caleb's new myth. In the world underneath chapter Fractal Library. The former, because of the supernova Caleb and MC created, and whose explosion reflection is what we probably see in the Homecoming Ring story branch. And the latter, because of the coexistence of several possibilities at the same time. Everything is connected in the great tapestry that makes up Love and DeepSpace, after all. As time goes by, Jeremiah ends up assuming the identity of a normal person and loses all contact with Xavier. His main focus now is to propose to Bella. Unfortunately, a wanderer attacks Lincoln City. When Jeremiah reaches Sweetie's cake shop, he only sees collapsed buildings and ruins. And underneath rubble, a small marigold is buried, Bella's favorite flower. He tries to shatter the Wanderer's protocore, but realizes there's nothing he can use as a weapon. His peaceful life has almost made him forget how to fight. In the early days after the Chronorite catastrophe, Jeremiah works with Xavier again. And Xavier ends up rescuing the girl and then disappears soon after, leading Jeremiah to think he has found her. The Queen of Philos iteration in this world, we can see. The disaster lasts longer than anyone could have predicted, and the Hunters Association is thus created. And I would like to add that most likely it was established with Xavier's help, or at least his influence. 2 years later, in 2037, Xavier is walking and catches a floral scent. When he looks up, he sees a flower shop named Philos, its golden marigolds spilling out onto the street. It turns out Jeremiah bought the place where Bella's cake shop used to be. The two of them go inside, and Jeremiah reveals that Bella knew who he was from the start. He asks Xavier why he doesn't settle down somewhere since he found her, see. Although Xavier doesn't answer, he muses that maybe someday he can settle down in a place where he can see the stars, which implies he wants to stay and protect the main universe, the main timeline, see, while reminiscing of his queen version of MC, who's ruling over Phoenix. Chapter 5 Long Lost Treasures. This chapter of Raphael reveals yet another side of one of the major factions of Love and DeepSpace, the Raincoats, a group of assassins at the service of the Ever Group. An unknown raincoat parks the car in an abandoned dock. Tied up inside the trunk is Tony, an up-and-coming director worth billions, who disappeared while writing his next movie script. The raincoat accesses the director's phone and locates the audio files he was looking for. Each file is able to raise his ranks on Ever's execution list. It never ends well for people who know too much, he muses. The raincoat mission is to erase those files and dispose of the man, but instead, he decides to listen to the audio files. That recording is of a conversation, the first one, between Raphael and the rookie director, in which the latter contacted him as he wanted some insights about Lemuria, as he wished to make a fantasy-themed movie with Lemuria as a setting. Raphael didn't reveal anything and instead directed Tony to speak to the Deep Space Academy as they organized an archaeological team to explore the ruins. He concluded by saying that things didn't go well. The director tried to speak to the archaeological team and learned that the submersible took a whole week to return. After that, two members of the team, Eleanor and Fred, left the Deep Space Academy, and the third one, Jennifer, disappeared. The three of them simply vanished. Eventually, Tony managed to talk to one of the elements of the team, Professor Sean. The professor tried to avoid the director's question, but he ended up revealing that they found a whirlpool that caused equipment to malfunction and the team to get lost. Suddenly, a school of bluefish, and as we know, the bluefish is Raphael's emissary, appeared out of nowhere and guided them to the ruins. The fish acted as their guides, beacons, companions, and emotional support. And besides the fish, Professor Sean admitted they also saw someone dressed just like them. Not satisfied with the report, Tony asked the IT team to restore the archaeological expedition video. Through the footage, Tony sees that the fifth person present was in fact a skeleton that was holding a protocore weapon, an item that was only invented in the last decade, which makes him think that maybe Lemuria didn't sink naturally. The last audio file consists of a message Frederick sent to Eleanor. He mentioned that the protocore weapons they found implicated the presence of the Ever group. Besides that, he stated that ever since they left Lemuria, someone has been spying on them, so he urged Eleanor to stop looking into Lemuria so Ever didn't go after them. It turns out that after finding that out, Tony had dug up the buried protocore weapon, which was what immediately got him on Ever's execution list. Just as a raincoat is getting ready to toss the phone back into the trunk after listening to all these records, Raphael appears. He hints that since the raincoat knows even more than Tony, he may be the next one on Ever's list. Being so, he asks the raincoat to work for him. Raphael wants to know if MC's name is also on the execution list, and if so, he wants the raincoat to give him everything they have about her. That's when the raincoat directs Raphael to the nest, so he could talk to a real trading partner. It's also in this chapter that we get the revelation that Raphael is number 6 on their list. After getting to the conclusion that Raphael must be the one responsible for the sea monster murders that happened in other cities, the raincoat asks if he's part of Raphael's own execution list. Our fishy responds, "You won't make it onto the list for a while." Chapter 6, Sealed in Dust. Now this is a juicy one. There's a lot of lore in this chapter. So it starts with a conversation between a man wearing a duckbill cap and the man in a raincoat. It is mentioned that the man in a raincoat has been keeping an eye on Ever, and that the one with the duckbill looks younger than the age his voice denotes. From what we've learned from the previous chapter, the raincoats work forever, so I'm assuming this one in particular was spying on them for some other faction. The man wearing the cap hands the other one a briefcase, the scent of explosions still emanating from it. The content of it? 4 pages telling a story from 14 years ago, from when the explosion took Josephine's life and left the MC thinking Caleb had also been killed. This beginning really hits at the fact that the man wearing the cap actually traveled back in time to recover those documents. Otherwise, they wouldn't have stressed the scent of the explosion site. So the first document was written by researcher and Unicorn team leader Josephine at the Gaia Research Center. It's a report about Subject 001, a female with an Anhausen class evil. As we know, the report is about our MC, and by the class description, we can also understand that her evil is one that raises, enhances, and awakens other evils. As Anhausen means to raise, make higher, make greater, to exalt. The name of the team, Unicorn, can also be of importance because it's associated with something that is highly desirable but difficult or even impossible to obtain, as well as having connotations in Christianity that relate to the incarnation of Christ. Besides being associated with purity, spirit travel, and healing of mind, body, spirit, and also of earth, ocean, and air, which makes perfect sense for the MC, as specifically in Zane, Xavier, and Raphael's story branches. She managed to heal them by resonating with them. I'm sure that the fact they include a resonating scene in all of the 3 branches is meaningful. This report describes how, after the MC's energy values peaked, there was a powerful energy burst within her body. All her vital signs disappeared after the explosion. Then the next day, the vital signs monitors restarted, and her heart rate, breathing, and brain activity resumed. The MC was once again alive, her energy values back to normal, but a new unidentified substance had appeared in her heart. Josephine even wrote that it was like watching a planet evolve and be reborn via an explosion, similar to what happened in Caleb's myth. As we can see, everything is connected. Carrying on, the unknown element in the MC's heart was then named Ether Core. In order to make sure that her resurrection hadn't been an accident, they voted to decide if they should kill her again and verify if the same miracle would repeat. Josephine couldn't find in herself the will to vote, as the subject, MC, was still just a child. It turns out the vote passed, and they killed her again. Every time she woke up again, she acted like a newborn, exploring the world based on an instincts, the memories of her previous life erased. And besides that, her ether core became stronger with each reawakening of her consciousness. Josephine, however, despite herself, grew attached to the child and feared she would not wake up. Some days later, the fated coronal reef catastrophe took place. The Gaia Research Center was also hit by the destruction, and the MC was nowhere to be found. Eventually, Josephine found her in a shelter days after the disaster. Now, where was MC during those days? I believe one of 2 things might have happened. One, as an evil policeman, Xavier found her, kept her safe, and then left her at the shelter. Number 2, Caleb absconded with her through one of the black holes he created to an alternate space-time pocket, where he kept her safe until he was taken by Ever. Just, just a theory. Anyway, when Josephine takes her hand, the MC calls her grandma. Apparently, even though her memory was erased, MC still had some recollection of Josephine as a familiar figure. From then onwards, they lived together as a family with Caleb, although his name is never written by Josephine. Another detail I'd like to emphasize is the fact that Josephine has been unable to contact her former research colleagues. I think this might be because of Silas' intervention, because we know he has taken over one of Ever's research centers. This was a piece of information we didn't have when these chapters were originally released. Not knowing who else to trust, Josephine decides to turn to Dr. Noah, Zane's mentor. The chapter ends with Raincoat Man and Duckbill Cap. The Raincoat Man says they won't rush because the MC's powers are not complete yet. He then states that the Duckbill Man's Prince Xavier has been glued to her. This implies that the Catman is from Philos. Otherwise, Xavier wouldn't be his prince. He could be one of the backtrackers that defected in the meantime, but if that were the case, he would be the same age as Xavier, Jeremiah, and Soren. And apparently that's not true. So maybe he's one of the royal members of Philos who wants to stop Xavier's mission. Just a thought. The hat wearing man then issues a warning. It's not only Ever who wants TMC. The raincoat man ignores him and suggests the other one should get rid of Xavier so Ever can crown him as prince instead. They have a bit of a standoff, and we learn that the MC is still in development, that Ever may end up losing more than what they bargained for, and that the Raincoat Man is his ancestor. He's older than the man from Philos. So, who are these two exactly? The plot really thickens in this chapter. Ever pretends to control the backtrackers and Xavier with a new drug so he can serve them and become an even stronger weapon. Just one last idea about this chapter. I wonder if they have already made Xavier consume that substance unknowingly, and that is the reason why he's always kind of sleepy. I had already theorized that the red chain he has around his neck could be related to that in my video about the voyage of the outcast, but that's just an hypothesis. Chapter 7 With Light. This is a funny chapter. It introduces us to Nero, Xavier, and MC's colleague from Data Analysis, who suffers from severe social anxiety. He decides not to join the team building retreat, and as a result of a bet that Tara made, she's set on persuading him to go. However, when Nero gets a notification on his phone about Lumiere, Tara knows she has to admit defeat. Nero leaves the office to go home in a hurry so he can participate in the voting. We learn that Nero is the biggest fan of Lumiere. His ringtone simulates the sound of a lightsaber. He is the leader of Lumiere's fan site, the leader of his fans called Light Chasers, who debunks any false rumors that are posted online. He's like a vigilante fighting for justice, fighting for Lumiere's justice online. At a certain point, a troll starts publishing one post a day to expose Lumiere's 7 deadly sins. And each day, Nero refutes the accusations made, managing to showcase Lumiere's heroism to everyone. However, while investigating the claims made on the posts, Nero notices that one other person is always involved, his colleague from the Alpha team, Xavier. On the 7th day, the post consists of a few leftover documents that mention that any attempts to probe the Evolver's evil limit trigger a special neck suppressor, which prevents the Evolver from using their full power. No physical form detected, no scars, and the suppression field acts like a protofill anomaly. The post also includes a photo of the evil suppressor pulsating as a vicious, constrictive red ring of light. Right when Nero sees this, Xavier arrives and asks him if something happened. Nero's reaction is the funniest possible. He practically throws the screen at Xavier, saying that Lumiere could be dead. Xavier coolly and simply advises Nero to go home, and Nero starts hyperventilating. The poor boy has no idea that he's actually talking to the one and only Lumiere. 2 weeks after these events, the result of the latest top 10 hunters is released. With no surprise, Lumiere once again reigns supreme. When Nero sees Xavier again, he apologizes for overreacting on their previous encounter, and reveals that he knows Xavier's secret. He knows that Xavier is Lumiere's ultimate fan. He says he is the real light chaser. This just makes me giggle. I mean, how clueless can Nero be? Chapter 8 Micro Universe. This Raphael related chapter introduces us to Michael, a master's student who's working at Eversgaya Research Center for half a year, cultivating cells. He's also a graduating student who sees the class of art appreciation and criticism as the only saving grace. Michael firstly noticed Raphael after seeing one of his paintings online. Arriving for the first class, the room was already full and even the stairs were packed. As he got there a little late from his work, he asked for Professor Raphael's help in explaining the point he had missed. Raphael did so and invited Michael to sit in the front row for the next class. Michael initially saw Raphael's class as a welcome break from the lab, but when Raphael unveiled his own work, the art world opened its doors for Michael. Raphael presented one of his paintings so that students could critique it. When Raphael asked for appreciations from other faculties other than arts, his gaze landed on Michael. So, after stalling for a bit, Michael gave his honest opinion. The painting was a bit messy, but the colors were strong and worked well together. Raphael said his intuition was spot on, as the piece resulted from his venting his frustration at his manager. Michael remembered how he used to be a young boy captivated by the vibrant colors of flowers and animals. And now he was a young man trapped in a world of gray concrete buildings, peering through a microscope at a single color called LCMSC, cardiac microvascular endothelial cells, heart cells. After the midterm exam and the critique of some of the work the colleagues presented, Michael came up with a bold idea for his final project. Towards the end of the semester, Raphael took his class on a field trip to a rural architectural jam, and there he showed how down to earth he was. On this occasion, Michael saved Raphael from an orange cat that was grooming itself. Raphael acknowledged Michael and thanked him for showing up. That was the only interaction that put Michael at ease when he was treated as a mere number back in the lab. Raphael's final class is a breeze and consists of an open discussion about the semester's journey. A few students presented revised versions of their midterm works, and Michael also brought his artwork and unfolds it before Raphael. It's an image of the LCMEC, cardiac microvascular endothelial cells, from the lab where he spends most of his time. Michael explains that they are a type of immortalized cells, not uncommon in the microscopic world, that reminded him of Raphael's paintings. But the professor wasn't listening. His gaze was fixed on the name of the cell. Michael couldn't remember the first word. He knew it was Lem something. But we know the first word. It is Lemurian. Those were Lemurian heart cells. After finishing grad school, when Michael is already on the way to Ever's headquarters, he tries to find out what the L in the LMEC stands for. He doesn't get a straight answer, but a guess forms in his mind. However, he muses if that civilization is long gone, how could life still exist? He recalled what happened when he presented his work to Raphael. As the professor lifted the paper, a gust of wind tapped the window, and the microscopic universe seemed to become alive. Tiny colored blocks turning into miniature colorful fish, flickering their tails as they danced into the dusty air. Raphael then asked if they extracted cells from living subjects or otherwise. Of course, Michael didn't know the answer to that question. Raphael told him that biology was a masterpiece painted by nature itself, and should he ever achieve great things in biology, He should never forget that. This means, in my opinion, that despite everything that some humans, and namely ever did to the Lemurians, Raphael still hopes that people like Michael can make a difference for the better. Chapter 9. No Morning. Does my baby face make me look a bit green? This is how we start Zane's chapter that gives the spotlight to Dr. Grayson. Yvonne, the nurse we all know very well since the MC first set foot in Axo Hospital, is working at the cardiac surgery department and carries an Arctic hunter on a wheelchair. The hunter in question feels impatient because it feels like it's just a minor injury and the Arctic is already understaffed to deal with the wanderers. But he was exposed to a high volume of metaflux and therefore he was flagged for a procedure at Lincoln's Axo Hospital. Unexpectedly, Grayson takes the opportunity to ask him what hunters do on their days off and if they have any shared hobbies. That's when Yvonne realizes that Grayson has got a crush on a hunter. While Grayson attends the briefing about the annual event where the Hunters Association's health center partners with Axo Hospital to conduct comprehensive medical examinations on hunters, his mind wanders off to the moment when an injured person's heartbeat is brought back to life in his hands, and the girl smiles at him. A message from Yvonne brings him to the present in that moment. She suggests Grayson should take a cue from Dr. Zane, since he's so close to Miss Hunter, the MC. Grayson, however, answered Yvonne that he wouldn't dare to approach Zane on that matter. As Grayson actually meets Zane in his office, Zane informs him that they will have to perform surgery on a patient who turns out to be the Arctic hunter he met earlier. As they will have to perform two surgeries back to back, Zane says Grayson can skip the Hunters Association examination the following day. After nodding, Grayson quickly adds he'll be fine because the association examination is just like a day off. Zane simply meets Grayson's gaze for a moment and follows it with a Zane knew. He immediately knew. Do you have a crush now, Hunter? You want to get to know her but don't know how to break the ice? Zane asks. Grayson finally admits to it, and in return, asks how Zane and MC became friends. Zane explains their circumstances are unique and asks if Grayson can tell jokes. Taking into consideration Zane's dry humor, Grayson is sure there has to be more to it than just telling jokes. The next morning, Grayson arrives at the hospital cafeteria in a navy blue three-piece suit with a tie, hoping his hunter would notice him during the medical examination. But breakfast is cut short when an alarm blares. There's a metaflux leak in the northern suburbs, exposure level 5. As Grayson, Zane, and other doctors make their way to the suburbs, he prays that his hunter is not there, and if she's hurt, that he will be the one to treat her. Grayson ends up meeting the hunter girl, and it turns out that she remembered him and even volunteered to help with unloading supplies to spare his surgeon hands. His hands, however, are not like Zane's. They don't have a strong evil at their disposal. He wouldn't be able to help his hunter the same way. That emergency rescue operations delayed the Arctic's hunter surgeries for 2 days. When Grayson and Zane do checkup on the hunter after the surgery, he asks if he can still be a hunter. As soon as Zane confirms the possibility, as long as he does his best to avoid getting injured again, the hunter is back to his usual self, eager to be out on the field. A week later, Grayson sees the Arctic hunter for the final checkup. The residual metaflux remained contained, meaning the surgery was a success. As they stroll in the hospital garden, Grayson offers an elbow to help support him. The hunter asks if anything happened with the hunter girls. I mean, everyone knew. News travel fast. Everyone knew about Grayson's crush. And he also asked if anything had happened, and indeed, Something had happened. The girl asked Dr. Grayson out. However, Dr. Grayson noticed that with every step they take, the hunter winced. After this Arctic hunter was discharged, Grayson discovers a disturbing trend. A large number of hunters are showing signs of type Y protocore syndrome, in which metaflux hides in the body for long periods of time, and by the time it's detected, it's too late. He informs the Hunters Association of the risk, but they don't seem too overly concerned about it. I think all signs point to the possibility that the Arctic hunter may follow that trend, especially because he was still in so much pain. The chapter ends with Grayson revealing that his hunter girl said that if the worst case scenario happens and someone has to perform CPR, and even if it means breaking her ribs and her heart stops for 6 minutes and they don't give up, she wants it to be Grayson to declare her gone. Dr. Grayson then asks Zane, when they break the news to the family, do the family consider them guardian angels or Grim Reapers? This question remains unanswered, and it's especially relevant as it is a callback to Dawnbreaker Zane, who is forced to act as a true Grim Reaper, the one who haunts Zane by constantly appearing in his dreams. And finally, we have Chapter 10, Mischief. The chapter starts off by showing how Luke and Kieran escaped from an armored truck where they were the cargo being transported under the supervision of Ever's researchers. One of the twins approaches the driver, Linton, unnoticed, and presses a cold, sharp metal plate against his collar. You want to leave? I'll give you 5 minutes. Run! A nauseating stench of blood wafted from the door to the cargo area. The driver makes use of the opportunity given and runs into a dark alley. Soon, footsteps echo at the alley's entrance. The driver tries to look inconspicuous, like a piece of garbage. Finally, the sound of footsteps fades into the distance. Linton allows himself to breathe and stands up. Suddenly, he sees movement in his periphery, but when he turns, there's nothing there. A voice chuckles. The driver thought the young man had walked away. Linton tries to make a run for the unobstructed exit when another figure appears and blocks his escape route. Linton finally understands that he's dealing with twins, Luke and Kieran, as they introduce themselves. As the driver had supposedly snitched on them when they tried to escape for the last time, Luke pins the man against the wall and finishes him off. Through a report that the twins find, we learn that they mutually influence each other's visual, pain, and auditory senses, meaning they can see images within the other's field of vision, sounds, and they can also experience the same level of pain at the same time. But more important than this is the fact that they show rejection reactions to the protocore exposure, which makes the occurrence of a transformation within 3 months highly possible. Which means that the twins may very soon transform into wanderers. And that's the reason why they were being transported, for termination at the disposal site adjacent to the N109 zone. Luke, however, doesn't give up because the younger one of the 303 twins, named Fee something, outlived their estimated time. Regardless, since they are on borrowed time, they decide to go out with a bang. And how will they do that? By killing the protocore smuggler and leader of Anakinus, Silas. Anything goes wrong, the truth is they would rather be killed by Silas than transform into monsters. Twins spend 2 weeks in the N109 zone and hear all sorts of rumors about Silas, from him being in cahoots with the Wanderers to him being a vampire. There's one detail, however, to which everyone agrees. Kill him, replace him, or become his subordinate. In the meantime, the twins met Sherman at the Bar Elysium, and Kieran has actually been telling him and found out that he will attend an important business meeting at Solon Hotel, where Silas is also expected to be. The twins go to check it out from a rooftop across the street. They notice Silas isn't carrying any weapon, but that doesn't stop him from yanking a body through the window and then making a mist swallow him till everything dissipates. They realize in that moment that Silas is a weapon himself. Soon after, as if sensing something, Silas sweeps his gaze across the street in the twins' direction, and they flee into the shadows with lightning-face speed. On Wednesday night, the concert hall in the N109 zone, bustling district hosts a grand performance. Of course, Luke and Kieran discreetly enter the concert hall. Kieran watches Silas as he sits alone with his eyes closed, waiting for the concert to begin, as well as he keeps an eye at the dressing room where the conductor and musicians are bound, one by Luke. As the time for the performance to start arrives and the curtain slowly rises, Luke takes the stage. He stops in front of Silas and flings two projectiles at him. However, the two projectiles are suspended and squeezed by a black-red mist till they burst. Silas finally opens his eyes and asks, "What's your motive?" As Luke talks to Silas about his motive to try to kill him, Kieran approaches the Onychina's leader from behind, holding several darts between his fingers. Through Luke's eyes, Kieran confirms his brother has got Silas's attention, but when he prepares to launch, Silas says, "If you want to kill me, at least use a method that's less boring." Kieran sees Luke's body going rigid on stage and realizes it was a reflection of what the mist was doing to him. Wasting no more time, Silas closes his eyes again and tosses them outside the concert hall. Alive. After the realization that Silas caught them, but decided not to kill them, the twins decide to take another approach. They go to the fighting arena in the N109 zone. They are rejected on sight. The next day, they return with a grin on their faces, after all the arena's fighters have been mysteriously missing since dawn. I wonder who could have done that. Onychina's arrives soon after to take the arena down. Silas is there too, and the twins take the opportunity to go down on one knee. "Boss, we want to be your followers," they declare. "I have no use for trash," Silas states. "Prove yourselves." In less than half an hour, the twins return to Silas. The three of them are the only ones left standing in the arena. "Now use each other's lives to prove yourselves," Silas said with a smirk. They fight for the Onychina's leader's enjoyment. On his part, Silas knows they are merely putting on a show, waiting for the perfect time to throw the knife at him, but they're so persistent that they manage to pique his curiosity. But that's when the unexpected happens. Black crystals pierce and crawl up one of the twins' face like snakes and reach his eyes. And of course, the other twin falls to his knees in agony. The transformation has begun. Silas watches with interest, wondering if the twins' bond will remain in the face of death. The transforming twin turns the knife on himself and tries to gouge out the crystals. The other twin shares his pain, but even so, offers to help him, to kill him before he's fully transformed. Silas plunges the black-red mist into the twins' chest, intent on killing the both of them this time. As the mist presses progressively more on their internal organs, the twins plead for Silas to stop. "I thought you had a death wish." "We don't," answer the twins. Silas releases them, and a strong force surrounds the twins and shatters the glowing black crystals. He says, "In the N109 zone, dying is easy. Staying alive, now that's the real proof of strength." As we can see, Silas put them in an even more pressing life or death situation that ultimately made the twins realize they still didn't want to give up. Silas awakened their true strengths and resilience. Or perhaps he reawakened something that the twins thought they couldn't recuperate: hope. 2 weeks after, when Luke and Kieran have fully recovered, except of course for the scars on the face and body of the one who was affected, the crystals. They return to Silas to genuinely be his followers. Silas kills them on their act, and the twins admit that they want to know if anyone can actually kill him. Then they add that Sherman is suspicious, and therefore they'll keep an eye on him for Silas. Go then. That's the only order, so to speak, that they get. As Luke and Kieran leave, they pass through a glass wall and look at their reflections, which for the first time in their lives are not identical. Luke says he thinks they should look like twins and pulls out two identical masks he had asked the surviving 303 twin to make for them to wear. They put them on. Once again, they are identical. So in this chapter, we can see that Silas, despite at the first sight seeming very ruthless, he actually ended up caring for the two boys, and he did what he did and actually hurt them in order to unleash their potential. That's it for chapters 1 to 10 of World Underneath. I know Viper's chapter is still missing, but I'll talk about it when more Worlds Underneath chapters are released. I'll leave you with a little teaser about it though. It mainly deals with human trafficking, from which Viper was also a victim, as well as the jealousy he feels towards Caleb as he replaces him as Professor Lucius' pet project. I know this video doesn't talk much about theories because these were the previous chapters and much of the things that they hinted at were already revealed. So I just tried to establish some connections and mention a few theories that I still have regarding these first chapters. So anyways, this is just a recap. So I think the ideal is if you read all the chapters with time and can notice all the little details that help to enrich the world, the story, and the characters of Love and DeepSpace. It's a very rich tapestry, so delve in. If you like this video, hit the like button, and if you wish to see more videos about lore and theories of Love and DeepSpace, comment and subscribe. This is Princess Farron signing out. Take care and good gaming. Bye bye.